fate is a sculptor who shapes the lives of men.
It was a horrible war. I've heard him tell so much about it. It was brother against brother, and it really was.
It's sad that we had to fight, you know, on our own country, on our own land, that the country was split so bad.
In 1864 he wrote, "I am satisfied now to quit it, for there is no fun in fighting. I am getting tired of this cruel war."
You had over 620,000 deaths in the Civil War. What was another, 1,800 of people that really were nobodies? The Sultana was one of the largest maritime disasters in history, and the largest maritime disaster in American history.
You really got to hunt to find anything about it. You know, if you do try to find out about it, you can find a little information about it, but it's just something that's not really, talked about, or it's not really that well known.
It was kind of buried because of the other major events that were happening.
It was probably just an asterisk in the history books.
In 1864, he either enlisted or was drafted. I can't believe he was drafted because he was 42 years old. And knowing the makeup of the man, I guess he was looking for another cause. I don't know what, but he enlisted in the 183rd Ohio.
I heard the story my entire life about my great-grandfather who survived the Sultana and how he survived.
He had on his long johns, and he thought his long johns were impeding him in the river, so he took off the bottom part of them and put them around the boards, these two boards that he had. And about that time, he called it a stiff hat came along, and he put the stiff hat on. So when he was rescued, all he had on was the top part of his long johns and that stiff hat.
Having in his pocket a twist of tobacco. He takes the tobacco out and he gets a chew of the tobacco, and he was tempted to throw the tobacco away, thinking that he would not make it to safety. But on second thought, he said, maybe I'll make it, and he put it back in his pocket.
I this evening seat myself to inform you that I am well at present, ever hoping these few lines may soon come to hand and find you all enjoying the same great blessing.
It may be that I may fall in battle, but if I do, I will die at my post serving my God and my country. And if we never meet on earth no more, I hope you will meet me in heaven, where there is no rebels, no sickness, no sorrow, but all is peace and harmony.
Add something in there about possibly having the descendants, those that read the article, meet at the Sultana Monument the Sunday that the paper comes out. Let's see if we can get together some of the descendants of the Sultana men. And so he did. He added that into his article, and it came out, of course, Sunday morning. And we had a time picked at like 3 o'clock, meet at the Sultana Monument. Of course, when I went out there, I didn't know if I had anybody, one person. We had about 50 people there.
In 1864, Andersonville got overcrowded, and they wouldn't been able to move any prisoners to Andersonville. So the prison here at Cahaba started growing at that time, and this is when the late 1864, the prison population got to around 3,000, which made it the most crowded prison either north or south. We ended up with 6 square foot per man living space.
On the trip from New Orleans up to Vicksburg, along the way, Nathan Wintringer, chief engineer on Sultana, had noticed a problem. There was perhaps a bulge in one of the boilers and a bit of a crack, and so he ordered that the steam pressure in the engines be reduced, and they basically limped into Vicksburg under half steam.
The captain of the Sultana protested against crowding his boat so unnecessarily, as there were other boats lying at the wharf. But the quartermaster insolently threatened to seize the boat if he persisted in his objections.
Eventually he started upriver with his load of soldiers. The men were super crowded, however they didn't complain too much because the war was over, they were finally on their way home, and they said, you know, we got 2 or 3 more days of being crowded. We don't care, we just want to get home.
You go out to the National Cemetery and there's probably 20 graves of men whose names we were able to identify as being soldiers who died on Sultana. Most of the other men that died on Sultana, the soldiers, are just buried in graves that say, unknown U.S. soldiers. That's their memorial, just to be forgotten by history, forgotten by country.
There were 8 in his company and 6 of them perished on Sultana. His body was never recovered.
She applied for a widow's pension in July of '65. It was refused because they said there was no proof of death.
I am so glad that after all these years, maybe people are finally going to know something that really happened. And it happened, and it was a real tragedy. Hey, when 1,800 people are killed, and really, that shouldn't have been.
I don't even think they're teaching kids about this in grade schools or in high schools or anything like that. You know, when you talk about the Civil War, you talk about Grant and Lee, you know, and that's the Civil War, maybe, and Gettysburg. You know, there's a lot of other things happen in the Civil War besides those two, those 2 generals in the battle.
The history of it is the history of, it's so alive still. It's still alive, even though the war is, to some people, seems remote, you know, but it isn't. We're still fighting the battles.
We'll never know what happened to the bodies of many of these men. So in those cases, our memories are their only graves. And that's why we do what we do here, too, to keep those memories alive. Because I have said before that, you know, as long as you keep talking about something, then that memory never really dies.